It has been a wet, windy, and wild first weekend of the European Cups, and it's left us feeling kind of there. But we're going to talk about it anyway. We're going to talk about the big upsets. We're going to talk about the teams who didn't show up, and we're going to talk about probably a bit of refereeing as well. So let's get into it on this week's first ever episode of the Champions Cup Rewind. Let's start the show. As you may have noticed, I have a far reduced panel with me. I am joined by, from you shall now be known as Just Adam.
Just Adam.
Just Adam is with me. Mohammed was due to join us, but has had to pull out last moment for family reasons. All the best, Mohammed. And yeah, so it's not just because I'm slowly putting people off. You should be grateful that there's a show at all, frankly. But anyway, we shall crack straight on, because what with it being the European Cups these days, there's just a ridiculous amount of games. So let me just explain how it's going to happen. We are going to talk about only the Champions Cup. If you want Challenge Cup chat, you need to go to either the Interpro show for Irish teams, which you can find on this channel. You need to go to either Bit of an Animal for Lions chat, I guess is the only South African team that will be featured in this. That's also on this channel. Or if you want to chat about three of the Welsh regions who aren't called the Scarlets, you need to go to the RAP channel, WRRAP, which is our sister channel on YouTube for all things Welsh rugby. And you can find reviews, an overall review of all the games on the main RAP podcast, or special dedicated podcasts to each Welsh region on that channel as well. So that's where you go for your Challenge Cup action. So for the Champions Cup, with this being kind of a spin-off, if you like, of the URC Rewind, we shall be talking only about the URC games. So if there was any games involving English versus French teams, such as Poe versus Northampton, which bless him, Just Adam did watch. We're not
To be fair,
that.
I did. Yeah, it's a good game though. To be fair, it was an all right game.
Yeah, Poe were great. I was sad
Yeah,
that Poe,
yeah.
but they got absolutely crippled by injuries, unfortunately.
Did you?
Anyway, so we're going to go basically in chronological order. So first game up, we are talking Sale versus Glasgow. Now, full disclosure, neither of us watched this game live. But if you did and you are Scottish and you're thinking, oh, for goodness sake, guys, when are we going to get a fair crack of the whip? We are on the lookout for a Scottish host. So get involved in the comments, email us, contact us on social media, Reddit, Twitter, Facebook, wherever it is. Get involved and say, I want to be your Scottish presenter and bring a bit of common sense to this horrendous podcast. So do that. But I have watched the highlights. Adam, you've watched the highlights.
Yes, I've watched the highlights as well. Yeah.
Your main
Do you know?
takeaways from this one?
I think it's a very good win from Glasgow. I think Glasgow, in terms of European heritage, is very up and down. It was a really interesting one to
They normally
keep
lose in
up on.
England. Normally.
They normally do lose in England, and you would argue that Sale normally win their home games in the Champions Cup. But this is one of the things that I was gonna sort of mention to mention at the forefront of this game is the fact that in the old European setup, we would have had Sale play at Scotland, like we would have had Sale play in Scotstoun, and with that high quality of a game that it was in Manchester, well, in Sale, sorry, in Sale, you want a reply. The beauty of the Champions Cup used to be that you can get a reply out of a team. You used to have the December home away matches, which used to turn out some classics. But this could have been a classic. I feel like Glasgow played a really good game and they dominated in their stats as well. But yes, fair play to Glasgow. They normally lose in England. But yeah, this
Wow,
is a statement that they put up.
279 tackles for Sale. That is a lot. That's very Glasgow.
It's very, very Glasgow. Glasgow are one of the best attacking teams in the URC, so it's really good to see them translated in Europe against teams that we're not used to be playing essentially, and with the quality of Sale's lineup as well. You would have Glasgow down as this is probably going to be as serious as they're going to take to the Champions Cup, which is good because you want them to do well in the Champions Cup. No Scottish team, you can probably correct me, Hugh, since Edinburgh in 2012 has made the semi-finals of a Champions Cup. So,
I didn't even
you
know
know,
that, mate. I didn't even know that.
I
You got me beat.
I only knew that because I was there at the Aviva Stadium. I was there, Ulster v Edinburgh. But yeah, you need this. Well, Scottish teams need something like this to happen, and I feel like it's a good way to start, as well as another result that we're going to talk about later on as well.
Yeah, well, exactly. That game did finish. Literally, that's finished like 20 minutes before we started talking. But um, I think my takeaways from this one, obviously Glasgow went behind early, and you're thinking, oh, is it happening again? But then they got back into it. I thought their third try as well, Stafford McDowell, sails fly half just completely falls off him. Like it's a really bad missed tackle, to be fair. Not to take anything away from Glasgow. They clearly asserted their own game. They played their own game plan. It worked. Obviously, the weather's not great. Something that's been a bit of a trend this this weekend, Adam, and we'll talk probably mention it again, but just kind of go in on it. The attendances haven't been great this weekend.
No, they really haven't. It was one of those ones that I thought for European Cup nights you would always expect really big attendances, and you'd always, you have the greatest that Europe has to offer, and South Africa, of course. But when you look at the attendances for this round, it was, I think it was only 4,000. It has the official 4,400, was the
That's
official capacity at
crazy.
the Sale game. But you would have to say, like, was it a question of ticket prices? Was it a question of how much rugby we're getting involved in? You would think for a Premiership team like Sale that they would sell that type of game out, or is it the fact that the English fans might view the URC teams as, we'll surely beat them. There's where the ticket sales go. But we have the similar at the Aviva as well. It wasn't great in terms of ticket sales, but saying that the Aviva's a bit harder to actually make look full, to be fair.
I think it's a multitude of things. I think it's everything that you said. I think if you're an English rugby fan and you get kind of your URC chat via Rugby Union Weekly, you probably have a pretty inaccurate view of what the URC is and how it works and how good the teams are. I think the weather's horrible. That probably plays a
Yeah.
bit part in it. If you're a season ticket holder and you're looking like Friday night against Glasgow, it's pishing doon. Do I want to do that? Is that what I want to spend my time doing? That's nothing against Glasgow, but if you like, because Glasgow are a great team to watch. But what I'm saying
Yeah.
is, if you've already been told that the URC is rubbish by the English press, and then it's raining, and it's just after the autumn internationals, so it's a bit after the Lord Mayor's show. The whole competition of Europe is kind of
It's
losing it.
it,
It lost it's
yeah.
completely lost its magic at this point. Let's just be
Yeah.
honest about it. We'll talk about that a little bit later on when we talk about Leinster. Um, I think it's just like you could name 10 reasons why,
Hmm.
even it going from TNT to Premier Sports probably had an effect. It's just
Yeah.
not in, it's just not top of the billing anymore.
No, it really isn't. I feel like the Premier Sports effect of it was like sort of topped off with, like, we've got loads of experience with Premier because that's where the URC is like placed essentially. But the difference between like the likes of TNT and Premier is like night and day almost, because there was a bit of trouble at the start of the Toulouse v Sharks game with
Yeah.
actually playing Sharks v Toulouse. At some point they played the Gloucester game by accident, and then they were just a bit like, "Oh, we don't really know what's going on." And another thing that I noticed about the Premier lineup as well is that they played Leinster v Harlequins, which was a game yesterday on Premier Sports 1, and they played the Northampton game on Premier Sports 2, and that was the one that was live. I don't really understand the type of billing that they're doing there. Premier Sports, for in terms of other sports, they have the Dutch, football Premiership.
They've got
They're
NASCAR. They've got actually a lot of
NASCAR.
non-English football.
Yeah, they've got loads of like European based football, but
Hockey.
it yeah, they've got a lot of ice hockey, yeah. But I feel
We've all been there, URC fans, where you forget to turn the TV off and you find yourself watching an ice hockey game. And
yeah,
you, at
or
first you think, is
monster
this an
trucks.
advert for ice hockey? And you're like, oh no, it's an actual game.
So, yeah, and then you kind of get into it and you're like, oh, I've got a team now. Anyway, but I do feel like with Premier, it's that it's not as polished as you would think it is for European standard.
I'm a little bit disappointed with it, to be honest. We've gone off on a massive tangent here. Sorry,
Yeah.
Glasgow, you won. Well done. It's it, the Premier's main point of difference to TNT is the price, to be honest, and that
Mm.
does come across in some areas. I do think that it's a good deal, and having
Yeah.
as much rugby as possible on one platform, I think, is a good
Yeah.
thing. And at the end of the day, the commentary, I'm not actually that bothered about it because I'm used to watching games with Welsh commentary that I don't understand because that's the channel that it's on. I'm used to watching games with French commentary that I don't understand because that's the channel that I've got access to as well. So that doesn't bother me so much. What kind of bothers me a bit more is they kind of just supplanted the TNT. teams, all the TNT commentators and pundits. They just
Yeah.
kind of brought them over. So it's not the normal URC pundits that we're used to. And it's also none of the top 14 commentators or pundits
No.
either. So there's like no Robbie Knock. And I was really, the main thing that disappoints me the most is that they don't, you wouldn't know that they were also the host broadcaster for the URC in the top 14.
Yeah.
Like if it was on TNT, they would like every fifth sentence they'd be like, and by the way, the Premiership, you can watch this here.
Yeah.
We are the broadcasters of the Premiership, and they kind of big up the Premiership teams, and that's one of the reasons that people don't like TNT. But it's what they do. Whereas Premier Sports is never like, if you like this, you can watch them every single week on our
Yeah.
show, and you're just thinking like, wouldn't like that's the bare minimum, surely? Like if you're
Yeah.
as a business, why aren't you doing this?
Premier Sports has loads of rugby leagues that they've got like they had the Major League Rugby at one point. They had the
Yeah, they still do,
Japanese League
and
at
they've got
another point
Japan
as
as well.
well. Yeah, they've got like they are a rugby based channel. I'd say rugby's probably their main selling point, bar if you watch the SPFL, I guess. But it's one of those where you'd expect Premier, as you said, to have the Premier hosts. You'd have a bit more difference in there. You have a scope of knowledge from across the way. But uh, what they had was they had last night for about two of the games. They had Munster, they had Zebo, Bernard Jackman, and two TNT lads in
Jackman
Bath.
is class, to be fair. I'll give them that.
Jackman is class, and I do like Zebo I do like Zebo, but this isn't like I'd say that TNT normally had like a studio in the stadium, whereas this one it felt like they were in Bath and it started weighing it down at one point, and they all had but there was no like no inside panel. Do you know what I mean? I feel like with Premier they do it really rushed, and you can see that because they're not in the stadium. They're doing that whole oh, we're gonna go back to Dublin now. We saw it sort of today as well when they had to like go back and forth from Gloucester because they were like, I think they had John Barkley on at one point trying to speak through about the game, and he was just like, "Oh, I don't know what's happening with the TV coverage now," and then it cuts straight back to Toulouse. It just feels rushed. It felt like they had some form of a plan, but it just didn't really work out, and it didn't really suffer in terms of the actual quality of rugby that was shown. I just feel like it was a logistical nightmare on Premier Sports' like behalf.
Yeah, part of me feels for them because it's just such an unwieldy competition with so many teams in it that
Mhm.
it's impossible. And that's why I was looking for a Challenge Cup game yesterday. And I was like, where is it? I can't actually find where to watch this. Um,
Mhm.
but so there it is. Anyway, so that's our little moan about that. Moving swiftly on to game number two, Bayonne versus Stormers. So the Stormers, incredible season, marches on. Look, we have to say, I think I'll just bring up the lineups. Neither team fielded anything like their best team. I've watched a lot of Bayonne this season. Herschel Yanchis, congratulations, got a run out. Apart from that, I'd say Joris Sigons and Tom Spring are probably the only two first choices in this team. Uh, Obviously, and it's exactly the same for the Stormers. You've got Similani at fullback. Zas is there or thereabouts, I guess. You've got Ben Jason Dixon, Salman Morat as well, which are in line for first team honours, or just our first team in the kind of case of Ben Jason Dixon. But it kind of is a sign of where the competition is. That's
Yeah.
Bayonne are like deliberately trying to get knocked out, and the Stormers aren't exactly prioritizing it either. But like I said, it's an impressive win for the Stormers. They've played 5 games up north now this season and won all of them. That is not to be sniffed at, to not even drop a single one.
It's incredible. I think for the Stormers, they want it. I think the South African teams want to take it seriously, but as you said, if they're going out with weak teams, it's really weird because this used to be the epidrome of club rugby. And I feel like this week we've seen a lot of second string teams and second string thought because the way that the tournament's set up is that you can have a bonus point win like the Stormers did and still get through. And the likes of Bayonne could have a win and get through to like Challenge Cup or the round of 16. It's really weird. Like there's no like jeopardy in losing anymore. Whereas the old setup used to be you lost one, you're gonna have to win the next 3 games. Whereas this one is you can win one, you can lose the next three. It doesn't matter.
Well, the
It's such a
Stormers will be
weirdly set up.
the Stormers will be licking their lips now because they've got La
Oh
Rochelle
yeah.
at home. For as far as I'm aware, La Rochelle aren't sending the strong team down. So if the Stormers decide to bring back Sasha, Kobus, and
Mhm.
Willemser, oof, my goodness, gosh, they could make a real statement. And if they go, what would it be? 8 from 8 to start the season?
8 from 8, yeah.
You can't knock it.
It's
Team Shmeem, they're getting the results.
it's nothing that we predicted at the start of the season.
Absolutely
What
not.
would happen? We thought that the Bulls would be in this situation rather than the Stormers, but they are a really well coached team. Like I would love to see them play against Bordeaux in Bordeaux. Do you know what I mean? Like the way they're
Yeah.
going at the minute, it would be such a perfect game.
Did you see who was up in the coaches box for the Stormers?
No, it did not. Who was?
Nick Mallet,
Oh,
which was a
very
surprise.
interesting.
I, I
Very
I
interesting.
saw him and I thought I must have seen that he's been appointed and forgotten. But then I asked around some of my some of the South Africans that I know, some of whom are journalists and stuff, and Mohammed um, reached out to some people he knows as well, and nobody knew. Nobody knew what was going
Wow,
on. John Dobson wasn't shown on screen at all, but Nick Mallet was shown on camera or in Stormer's
that's
garb up
interesting.
in the coach's box multiple times.
Wow, that's really interesting. There's been a couple of coaches that I've been like this week that have sort of sprung up on screen, and I'm like, oh, there's one that I'm going to mention coming up in the Munster game that I sort of spotted, and I was like, did not realize he was any part of a coaching setup.
Yeah. So, but like we said, there's not
That's
that much
massive.
to add to it. Oh, other than Clinton Swartz looks like someone let their dad on the pitch. Um, but he did a job. He played well, so you can't knock him. Oh, also,
Yeah,
Machunu, the Stormers prop, I thought played particularly well, better than I ever saw him play for the Sharks. So that was very impressive. But Bayonne that have made a decision again. Bayonne's packed out every single week in the top 14, plenty of spare seats in this game. They've made a decision that they're not here to compete in this competition. So it is what
it's
it
a
is.
pity. It's such a pity. I feel like the Champions Cup's going down that route where it, you know, we all care about the league. Of course, we care about the league, but it used to always just be that's the pinnacle. It doesn't really feel like the pinnacle at the minute, but hopefully it would start kicking into action come January when, as I said, you could win one game and possibly get through. And
Yeah.
once that's there, it's how you play knockout rugby.
Okay. Absolutely. So I kind of thought that was going to be the game of the week because Bayern are extremely strong at home and Storm was obviously the best team in the URC, but because of the team sheets, it was like, not so much. But then the one where the team sheets absolutely did deliver was Bulls versus Bordeaux. So let's talk about this one. Let's bring up
Oh,
the team sheets first. On the Bulls side, they brought back all their Springboks. You got Aka van der Merwe, okay, not a current Springbok, but you've got Marco van Staden, who I think is one of the most underrated players in world rugby at the moment.
yep.
Every time he plays for the Springboks, he does give away a few penalties, to be fair, but I think he starts for any Six Nations team, I'll be honest. You got
Yep.
Andre Pollard, ever heard of him, playing number 10. You got Willie LaRue, Kanan Moody playing in the backs, and then on the bench, you also had uh, Johan Krobela, Jared Stinnekamp, Volker Lowe, Ruan Norkia, Elric Lowe, Embrus Papier, obviously a former Springbok as well. A hell of a team on it. And then on the Bordeaux side, they sent their big team, which is awesome. I didn't think they
Yeah.
would, I'll be honest, but they did. So they've got, all the likes of the pack is what it is for Bordeaux. It's not their strong point. But their back line is then France All Stars back line. Lucu Jalibert, Mofana making his comeback, Deportier, Peno, Buros, Lubiabere, you know them, you love them. And then on the bench as well, they had Celestio Arasi, Fiji's first choice fullback, Jans van Rensburg as well, Big Ben Tamiafuna. So this was an all-star game, Adam, and I was expecting it to be a bit of a game of sevens, and it delivered.
Yeah, it was a bit of a game of sevens. There was a point, like when I think it was Rudolph scored, and I was like, right, okay, Bulls can run away with this. It was 33-22 at the halftime, and the thought process was the Bulls this year haven't been at their glittering best yet. I feel like that was the best. It was, of course, the best half of rugby they played so far this season. That, the first half points tally alone could have been a full-time score with
Absolutely.
33-22. And the sort of defense on both sides were sort of sort of lapsed in that sense,
I
and
think at
it
one
was
point
just
in the game, both teams' 22 conversion was 7, which is
yeah.
a converted try every time they went to the 22.
It was sort of just like, all right, okay, we'll brush ourselves off under the posts and we'll get back into it, lads. It's sort of like the it's 0-0 mentality.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're playing under 13's game and you're getting lamped 70-0 and your coach is like, it's 0-0. Next try wins it, and you're like, it really doesn't. But for this one, the second half, I thought was why Bordeaux were champions last year. They were clinical. Just every single try that came out of it.
Bulls held them up 3
The,
times.
that's mental as well. Like the defense on that, and in that sort of sense, is brilliant. And the fact that Bordeaux could have scored another 3 tries is also showing how good their attack is.
Like Louis Bielbiere scored 2 tries, and like no one's even talking about it. It's just a normal game for him.
Oh yeah, he's incredible. Every time he got the ball, I just thought, oh, there's gonna be something happening now. And the fact that on the other side they've got Peno, and I don't think did he score? I don't remember
I
off the
think he
top of my
did.
head. Yeah, he did.
Uh,
He scored in the first 3 minutes. It's look at the wingers of Bordeaux, and you think
2 best wingers in the world.
it's two best wingers in the world, and you're like, oh dear. And Jalibert also made one of the best try saving tackles.
He did.
He made an incredible try saving tackle as well. I think Bordeaux really proved why they are the champions, and they're probably looking like they took like this game really seriously.
He's
Which,
so
to be
good.
fair, he's brilliant. He's really
Jalibert
good.
is so good. I can't
He's
believe he
really
doesn't get game time for France. It's ridiculous. Like the numbers that he's putting in. It's a cliche and it sounds like a hater thing to say, but it is genuinely if Dupont did that with Jalibert, and
yeah,
it's every single week. But anyway, this isn't a French show. I have one of those. But um, the second half, 0 points for the Bulls in the second half,
yeah,
and it's just not good enough at Loftus. And you think the whole point of Loftus, they've lost back to back games at Loftus now, and it's supposed to be a fortress. The commentators kept calling it a fortress,
yeah,
and you think like, oh, the heat, the altitude, teams are supposed to wilt. But by the end of this game, you had Ben Tamiafuna popping up in the center channels, thinking, "I'll just have a run. I'm just going to go
yeah.
for it, lads." And
They
it was UBB were kind of taking the piss a little
they
bit in
were.
that final 10 minutes. That's not good, and it's not acceptable from a Bulls point of view. I have seen people questioning Andre Pollard, and I think I don't think that's fair in this particular game. I'm not going to say that he was perfect, but at halftime, the halftime analysis on the TV was, "Wow, what a battle between the tens between Jalibert and Pollard. This is 2 big dogs going at it." So I don't think that I think blaming Pollard is a bit of a convenient excuse in this
Yeah,
one. I thought ball in hand, he had one of the best games I've seen him have in a long time. But just
100%.
generally as a team, well, it's a bad look for the Bulls. Look, the elephant in the room is, if you believe the rumors, it's the players that ousted Jake, and now it's the players who aren't performing. So it's a very uncomfortable discussion.
That is a very uncomfortable discussion. And as you said, I think the Bulls looked really gassed. It was around about the 50th minute, and normally you speak about Loftus and you think the other team will do that. But as you said, the Bordeaux just like started like, oh yeah, we're the champions, just started playing around. That was another one where the attendance wasn't great. Um, that was another one where,
Yeah.
it was interesting because you'd have another South African team play there and it would be at least 10,000 more. Whereas it's telling me here that it was 7,327 for the
Eesh,
attendance.
that's
And
lower than a URC game.
yeah, for the European champions as well coming into town, you would wonder how it's been presented in South Africa in that
Mm,
sense.
yeah, absolutely. Um, it just it's tough. There's no good spin to put on it, unfortunately. If you look at some of the other performances, Jalibert 3 try assists, 1 try. I thought Rayassi had an incredible impact off the
Mhm.
bench, that arguably game changing. Boris Palu as well played very well for UBB. For the Bulls, it's just you can't be nilled in a second half, and you can't lose back to back games at Loftus. It doesn't matter who it's against. If you look at the players on the team sheets, you should be taking on anyone really. These are
Yeah.
top class Springboks you've got there. So really difficult times down in Pretoria. But Before we go any further, just want to remind people that if you are enjoying the show so far, please consider subscribing. I want to be past 1,300 subscribers by the time we talk to you next week. Um, so please do that. You obeyed me last week when I said I wanted to be past 1,200, and we did that. So well done. And same again next week, please. And like I said, if you want to be a Scottish host on this here show, please let us know in the comments down below. We'd be happy to have you, provided you're not a lunatic. And yeah, keep watching because there's more rugby to talk about. Right. What rugby is it that we are going to talk about? I'm trying to go back and back and
Leinster.
back on the. Is it? Are we on to Leinster now?
We're on to yes, I
Yes,
think
we are.
yeah, we are.
Leinster versus Harlequins. All right. Before I bring up the stat, actually, no, I'll bring it up so the people who scroll on in the video can see that we've moved on to this one now. Adam, it's starting to get a bit jarring that when the team sheets get announced, 50 to 60% of the teams are fielding B teams, and then Leinster are saving their best players for these matches. They're starting to really feel like the odd ones out at this point.
Yeah, it was really interesting how this is like they're like, oh yeah, they're going for that fifth star. Like it's one of those where you look at this team and you had the likes of, I think it was Paddy McCarthy's first European Cup game, which is mad to think that he had a really good autumn and this is his first European game.
Mm.
Uh and then you just look at that team and you go, there's all Irish internationals and you have a South African international there as well, just to like spread it in. And then you have Rico Ioane coming off the bench. Granted, I do think, one of my hot takes on the Ioane signing, I don't even think it's a hot take, is that I don't think he's going to make that much of an impact that Barrett did. I
No, me
think
neither.
if you would have had him 3 years ago, he could have had similar. But now I just think he's just going to be a pretty decent player for them. But yeah, there was a couple of interesting points to this game. I thought Harlequins scoring a bonus point was quite interesting. I feel like all their tries that they scored was out of defensive error from Leinster.
Mm.
And that's an interesting thing about Leinster this season is their defense hasn't been great. Their first try was a pretty bash over try from Northmore. Um, Bashing over the defense and scoring under the posts, but yeah, after that though, Leinster were pretty clinical. I thought they would have won by more. I think Hugh, you put on the group chat like, how are Leinster not running away with this? You
Early in the
know,
in the first half, it was
it was
because
really
it's
cagey.
one of those where it's like victim of their own success a bit because it's like if you're a Leinster fan, you can turn around and say, lads, we won 45-28.
Yeah,
What
yeah,
is the
yeah,
problem? But it's kind of like it was one of those when you're on hiding to nothing, when Harlequins send a B team over to face you in Dublin and you got all that star quality that we just, and that strength and depth in the squad that we just talked about. It's kind of like a no-win situation because it's kind of like if you beat them 80-0, then it's like, oh, well, look at the opposition. And if anything other than that, it's like, oh, well, you made heavy weather against um, a B team. So you kind of can't win. But it's
yeah,
like I said, it's like when you're and look, and we know it's a well-trodden path uh, with the URC about the rotated teams that Leinster put out and the quality, and how their second strength team is still good enough to finish top of the league and things. Yeah, we know all that. It's kind of like a new angle now for me, anyway, to be like, but why are you saving your top players for games like this now? Why is Harlequins B team coming to town, the game that you wheel out your big guns for, in a competition that's really, like I said, lost its magic, but you're not wheeling out the big guns for Ulster or Connacht away, for
yeah,
example, an Interpro. It's starting. It am I? Does it? Am I making sense? Like this is starting to feel
yeah,
weird now.
yeah. It as I say, it's sort of like that. Leo Cullen, like all the talk beforehand was Leo Cullen's under pressure. This is going to be how many years since their last European Cup win? I think the last one was in Bilbao. I think it was in 2019 odd,
Yeah.
2018, 2019. There's a lot of talk about why Leinster haven't won any European Cups within that time. They've had the squad to do it. They've been
Mm.
to multiple finals where they could have won it. I feel like this is one that they're just going to keep focusing on. They've they're going to get top eight in the league. They are. They've had that really rushed, panicked start at the start, but they will keep winning games and they will, sharpen things up. But the likes of, I'll point out an example, and I do really like Jimmy O'Brien, but his yellow card that led to a penalty try, where he deliberately knocked it on. Harlequins had two men outside him, and it's almost like he had a reaction, like a complete reaction. Do you know, like the typical deliberate knock-ons where he had a reaction, and then as soon as he did it, he just went like that. And I was
Yeah.
just like, what? You had to back yourself in that. Why did you not get two hands to that? There was a yellow card there and a penalty try, which made it 24-21. Harlequins were looking as shocked as everyone else was in the stands. I kept on cutting to the same three Harlequins fans, and they were just like in dream world at that minute. But it was one of those where after that, as soon as O'Brien came back on, Tommy O'Brien scored a really good try where he
Yeah.
just sort of grubbered it through. Jack Conan scores another good try, and then Jimmy scores it again. It was one of those where Harry Byrne came on the pitch and Leinster played better. And that's the elephant in the room that we need to talk about right now, how Harry Byrne is Leinster's best fly half at the minute. And
Ugh. Well, Sam Prendergast did have that really sexy crossfield kick.
he did have that really nice crossfield kick. He like where he sort of almost cut it,
Yeah.
essentially, didn't he?
It was a little bit
But yeah,
unnecessary, but cool.
yeah, but when it's there, it's there. You know what I mean? There's another
Yeah.
crossfield kick like that I could talk about later on. But
Yeah.
but yeah, it was one of those where I do think when Harry Byrne comes on, it's like that added extra oomph that they need to win the game. But when you have a team like that and you struggle in the first half, it was 24-14, but it just felt like it was a lot closer than that.
The vibes on socials were frustrated from Leinster fans that I saw. Um, Obviously, Blue Sky is called Blue Sky because that's where all the Leinster fans are. Um, we love you. And the highlights, if you just watch the highlights of this game, which just shows the tries, you'd say there's no problem. It was good
Yeah,
because the tries were nice enough. All of the tries that they scored were, they weren't lucky. They were the result of being a better rugby team with better players. But it's like I said, like I'm repeating myself, they're just on a hiding to nothing in things
yeah.
like this.
I did think it was really impressive how I think Rico Iwanu came on and he could have scored twice, but it's almost like I made a joke on the Interpro group chat saying that Johnny Sexton had snipers in the stands. There was two complete walk-ins for Iwanu, and he just passed it every time. He passed it to Jimmy O'Brien for his try, and I was just like, oh, he's trying to make friends. I'm sure that first team conversation might have been a bit rough, but I do feel like he will show his worth at some point, but he's not going to make that impact, is he?
Yeah, yeah. So normal. Not being nice to Leinster on this podcast. Sorry, but it's
I, I
you.
it's one
What
of
can we
those.
say other than you? Yes, you're clearly a very very good team with very
Yeah,
very good players. But
you've got all the
it's hard to get giddy about this.
yeah, you've got all the tools to win it. It's sort of like when Man City were struggling to win a Champions League. It's to put it in a different term. It's like you've got the tools to win it, and when you win it, it'll be like fair
Yeah,
enough. You've
yeah.
won it now.
Unfortunately. Anyway, next game, uh, one that I'll be doing the majority of the talking for: Scarlets versus Bristols. Am I misremembering? Are you a bit of a Bristols fan on the QT?
No, I'm more of a Gloucester. I'm wearing a Gloucester shirt.
Okay.
I've got family in Gloucester, and then I've got a very good friend who's also from Gloucester as well. So, this is one that I should be raging at.
Okay. So, Dr. Harley Worthy is a bit of a Bristol's fan. They're kind of his English team. And he messaged me saying, like, Bristol played really well last week, which means they're going to play terribly in this one. And they did. And that's why, from a Scarlet's point of view, this was so frustrating because Bristol played really badly, but they've had two moments of magic from their Fijians, Mata and Ravovo, which has led to them scoring tries. And then that was it, kind of. So, Scarlet's, we've lost against a team that was played badly. They Bristol have no kicking strategy whatsoever. In that second half, I was like, what am I watching here? And I think the main thing to say about this game is that it lasted 2 hours and 4 minutes.
Wild. I
And
think
yes, there was a long injury stoppage in the first half with Archer Holtz. Had to be stretched off, and best wishes to him. But then the
It's
second half also lasted 60 minutes as well. And it's like, why? Why did it last that long?
well,
And it's the reason was because of the TMO. And it
yeah,
was long TMO deliberations on obvious things. Did you
yeah.
see one? Yeah.
Yes, I did. Yes, I messaged you about this. I flicked it over and it was Bristol's one of Bristol's wingers scoring a try. But in real time, I just happened to catch it. I like flicked over, just happened to catch it in real time, and it was like the referee was right in front of that, and it was the most forward pass I've ever. It might as well be in the NFL. It like you can see, do you know the way that sometimes they used to use the lines?
Hmm.
The line it was going that way. Like there were like you can use the lines and say, oh yeah, that was quite clearly forward. But they must have replayed it about 6 or 7 times. And to be fair to the referee, he's a referee that uses his TMO a lot. We
And
know him
during the
in
game, he started just muttering to him in Italian. He just started he'd be like, yeah, okay, guys, and then he just start going in Italian to the TMO, and it's like, mate, shut up, referee the game. And
yeah,
the TMO was taking ages, like it was like multiple times, like they were lining up the conversion, or the conversion was even taken, and he goes, check, and it would be for like a knock on like 5 rucks before the try was
yeah.
scored as well. So it's like you've had the best part of 3 or 4 minutes to call this in. And yeah, so that
Do
completely killed the game as a spectacle, I have to say. Absolutely ruined it as something to watch.
yeah,
Um, Scarlets, I thought they were in way it's hard to articulate because I thought they were in ways that we played well. There was parts of this game where it was our best performance of the season. Look, I know we're at bottom of the URC, so that's not saying much. But like I thought, if we like look at the head-to-heads, I thought that Sam Costello played excellently. I thought that Kemsley Matthias played excellently. Taking Sam Costello off on 60 minutes and replacing with Eddie Joe Hawkins is a mad decision by Dwayne Peel. Dwayne Peel's really shot himself in the foot with the bench selection for this one because he started Eddie James at 13, which I'm not against as an experiment. I thought it was going to happen at some point. But I think we've now done the experiment and we go, no, not that again, thanks. And then so he's got Johnny Williams and Eddie James who both play 12 in the starting 15. And then he's got Joe Hawkins who plays 12 on the bench and Joe Roberts who plays 13 on the bench. So he's got four centres in the 23.
centers.
And it was just
That's wild.
bizarre. And then other like the the rest of the substitutions, like Sam O'Connor, 75th minute. Jared Taylor didn't come on. Dan Davis, 75th minute. Dane Blacker, 73rd minute. It's just this has been a Dwayne Peel problem is not knowing how to use the bench, and it I think it cost us in this game. Both taking Costello off and then not bringing the forward substitutions on was a mistake. I thought that both Tommy Rogers and Ellis Mee both comprehensively outplayed Lewis Rees-Zammit, even though Lewis Rees-Zammit tops a lot of the stats in terms of line breaks, defenders beaten. I thought that they were the two best wingers. I thought that Jack Davis did well his first European game, only his second game of the season. Guy who's been bashing on the door of the first team for a long time. Although I do wonder if we had Blair Murray's X Factor in this game, might we have got another try? Maybe. We had at least two tries chalked off for TMO calls. Um, we should have
T
won this game, basically.
TMOs now is one of those where it when it works so well. And it used to be the case that you had lots more referees checking it in real time. Like, I would think like Nigel Owens always just check it in real time, just be like, can we just check that really quickly whilst the game's still flowing? But when you say the game lasted 2 hours based on TMO calls, it's something that needs to be looked at. And I feel like we spoke about it in the Interpro show last week. 2 hour games isn't going to drive people to watch the games. It's not going to drive people to the attendances for the games either.
The only reason I sat through it is because I'm a Scarlets fan. Like I would have
Yeah,
turned it off if I was not a Scarlets fan. And yeah, like I said, there were things in that game where I was like, I could see what we're doing. We're playing some nice rugby, and like Sam Costello played so well, and then we just bottled it. Basically, just didn't win a game that there was there to be won, and just Frustrating. Not a nice viewing experience. I was in a bad mood when I went to bed last night. I'll tell you who else was in a bad mood, Adam. Munster
Oh
fans.
yeah,
The
yeah.
return of Van Kran. That didn't
This
go very well
was
for them, did it? What happened
no.
here? My gosh.
There was a yellow card in the first, I would want to say, 5 minutes. Just gonna just double check that on the wee stats thing. Yeah, first 5 minutes, Tag Byrne got a yellow card, and then before a yellow card and a penalty try for infringing on a maul.
Yeah, 5 minutes
Um,
in.
5 minutes in, he infringed on a mall, and the ref saw it was illegal, and it was going to affect. I think he detached and he reattached in the mall and completely. He like took down the mall essentially. So the referee was just like, "Nope, that clearly takes away the try. You're off. Yellow card, penalty try." And then and then in that 10 minutes, it was chaotic. Months. Bath just started scoring in tries. There was one point where there was a Munster player down, injured, and there was a crossfield kick, and it was there was no Munster player out there because there was 13 men that were
Oh yeah, I
standing up
saw
on the
this in the
pitch.
highlights where there's a Munster player he's down injured, and like as they run past him, he kind of stands up. He's like, "What can I do?
Yeah,
I can't run, lads."
there was nothing he could do, and I feel like those those 10 minutes were, well, yeah, they were vital in the game where they were 28-0 in the first half. The rain was pouring down. To be fair for Bath, they were really clinical in a very, very wet game. The rain was absolutely
Wow,
pouring
Bath
down.
only 37% possession as well, and 33% territory. I'm seeing this a bit
Yeah,
more that counter-attacking teams are it seems to be the way to go these days.
yeah, that's what they always seem to be caught off guard, Munster, from that sense. And then the
Mm.
defense from Bath in the second half. I would say that it was an entertaining second half, but there wasn't much on offer there. I feel like the try in the last bit by Ted Hill was a great retry when their scrum half, was it their scrum half Spencer, sort of chipped it over the Munster fullback and then just passed it along. Um, Munster would be shocked by that, I feel. They'd be very shocked. It's one of those where, knowing Ben and Kalen, they would say that they would want a losing bonus point out of it. To be blown so out of the water and not score a single point in the second half, bearing in mind, to be fair, Bath only scored five in the second half.
Mm.
It's it, the fight there was, can you commend the fight there? Can you commend that sort of, they were going for it, they were going for it, they were going for it when there was nothing on that scoreboard to prove it. And Bath's defense was absolutely incredible. Will Stewart came off with a bad injury as well. That was one that was it looked terrible, to be honest with you. He came off with he came off with a moon boot basically. But yeah, it was a very good game for Bath. I think they're definitely one of the contenders for the Champions Cup this season. And it's a pretty much statement win from them.
Yeah, it's definitely a statement from Bath, and it's disappointing from Munster after flying high 5 from 5 in the first 5 rounds. It's now lost their last two. It's amazing how quickly things can change. It was the one thing that was totally inconsequential and means nothing, but I did have a little chuckle at was Craig Casey when he scored his try. He gets up and runs back to halfway. I'm like, it's half time, bro.
It's that like take the drop goal really quickly. We still
Yeah.
got a second. But Casey is the type of player that he would be thinking like that, but then he probably didn't see the time at that stage. But
Yeah, yeah. He's a great player.
you
Like,
know,
I'm not knocking him, but
yeah,
yeah. I think Monster we was stung by that
yeah.
because that was
I
not on the script. No one saw that coming.
I do feel like not having a fly half on the bench really hurt them as well. They went for a 6-2 split,
Mm.
and uh, not like that it really hurt them in the grand scheme of things, but they could have had some fresh legs coming off in that sense. In the 10 jersey, I did think JJ Hanrahan had some pretty good kicks out of hand, but is he the answer to a backup of Crawley's stature? Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
I don't really think so.
No, I don't think so. Yeah, it's an easy one. To kind of like referring back to the Pollard thing before. It's easy to just go, "Oh, it's JJ's fault," but then on the other hand, it can't be Jack
No.
Crowley is the difference between you beating Bath or taking 40. Like it's
Yeah.
there's more going on to it than that. And I didn't watch tons of this game. Apparently, the line out was a shambles again.
Oh, the lineout was horrific. Um, they brought off Baron for I swear it was for his brother Baron, and they were both as bad as each other in the lineout. It was loads of miscommunication. They were like Baron for Baron, and it was one of those. I didn't know they were brothers, and I looked at it and went, surely not. But he came off, and the lineout was still misfunctioning. It wasn't great. Like when they have a player that's what I think he's like 6'8" in Tom Ahern,
Mm.
and you don't use him for
Six
most
foot
of the
nine, I think.
lineouts. Six foot
It
nine,
was
and you
last
have Tech
season. I
Burns.
watched a Munster line out and I saw Tom Ahern was stood at the front. I was like, you see him,
Yeah,
throw him up and
yeah,
he can catch it. The 6'9" bloke stood at the front. Just catch the ball, guys, for God's
yeah.
sake.
It's wild how many balls went over his head as well. Every time they used them, they just went over his head, and I went, "That's quite impressive." How, you have
With his
what
arms
10
up, he's got
foot?
to be about 8 feet
Yeah,
tall, lads.
yeah. You know what I mean? Like with that pressure up as well. But yeah, there was just something wrong, and there was one where Gavin Coombs went across the line, and the ball was just thrown really like diagonally to him, and I was just like, you can't get away with that though. He was quite clearly in the way of the other player as well, and yeah, it was just a really weird Munster viewing. Like being so used to seeing how Munster been this season and not really seeing Bath, but knowing about Bath, I was just like,
Yeah,
yeah, fair enough. They're in the running, aren't they?
yeah, yeah. So that was that one. Munster fans, if you're watching this week, you know, that's what happens.
Watch the Interpro show
Yeah, watch the Interpro show.
for
So,
whew.
yeah, so okay, so if you're still watching, people, if you've watched from the beginning up until now, you're clearly enjoying it. So subscribe, will you? For goodness sake, have a word with yourself. Or if you are listening on audio formats on either Apple or Spotify, you can follow on Spotify, you can watch on Spotify, you can leave comments on Spotify, get involved in that. We are not the ones who respond to the comments. That will be producer Lee or the comments attack dog. You have been warned, is all I shall say. You are responsible for whatever happens to you from producer Lee in the comments. He takes no prisoners. So best of luck with that. Right. Let's now talk about the first of the final two games. Toulouse versus Sharks. This went exactly how I thought it might go.
It did. It did, didn't it? It was one of those where I was surprised that Toulouse didn't put on more. When I see that the quality of the Toulouse side
Toulouse
there,
massively took the foot off the gas after
yeah,
they went 28. I think they went 28-0 up after 24 minutes. And for ages, they just took their foot off the gas.
for ages, and then they brought on Dupont, and it was just a bit like, oh yeah, Dupont's back on the pitch, and it was
He
just
didn't, he
like,
didn't actually do
uh,
anything, though.
no, he didn't. No, I found it like it's one of those where we talk about, we're going to talk about the how the Champions Cup has changed its format. The Sharks haven't been great this season. Like
Mm,
that's probably to put it lightly. Looking at this game, I would have thought it would have been by way more they would have won
yeah.
by, and I would have been surprised by the
I've seen
fact that
some
Sharks scored 3 tries as well.
I've seen some Sharks fans on socials, like Jared Wright and that saying, actually, that wasn't so bad, which I think speaks to the expectations before the game. Obviously, this was Plumtree's last game in charge. He's being replaced by JP Peterson, which I'm struggling to see as an upgrade, but we'll give him time. But if you look at the timestamps for Toulouse's tries, 3, 13, 20, 23, and then 62, 66, 70, 80. Ange Castlewood, so with a hat trick. Julian Marchand with 2. I don't know. If you're a Sharks fan, I don't blame you for kind of taking the positives from this because it was um it was a rotated team, a lot of young guns out there giving a go. They played all right. They had a bit of a fight about them, which I respect.
Yeah.
They did score some nice tries, some well taken. They never quit. They never went away, and everyone expected them to be beaten. So I'm okay with the Sharks fans saying, actually, do you know what? I've seen worse. Um,
I
it's
think
set to lose, and to the Leinster chat, if anybody's thinking like, oh, you had to go at Leinster, why not to lose? Well, it's a fair enough question, and I do think
yeah.
that they were underwhelming in the first half. Like I said, they massively took their foot off the gas. The difference is that Toulouse do play their first team in the top 14, at least at home games, regularly
Yeah.
enough. Not every week, but regularly enough. They don't rotate at home to the extent that Leinster do. Um, but Toulouse, I think, are hot favourites. I still think Toulouse are the best club team in the world, even though they went out in the semi-final last year. I think that you have to be going some to compete with them. I think they're the favourites for this title. It says something that on their crest they've had to make a second line for the number of stars. Um,
That's wild.
yeah. So
I I also I'm shocked about the Sharks lineup as well. I would have thought that because as they're doing so like they're not performing in the URC, are they? I would have thought
no.
they would have went for this. I would have thought they would have went for the Champions Cup in terms of like, or are they going to try and plan for dropping down to the challenge and then doing that again? Do you know what I mean? Like the Sharks were those type of teams that they do play cup rugby in the sense that they won the Challenge Cup a couple of years ago, and they'd have to be looking for a way to qualify for the next Champions Cup. And you can sort of write them off in that sense for the top eight at the minute, but I'll
Mm,
touch wood on that sense.
yes. Yeah. I think the season's arguably a write-off already because they haven't got
Yeah.
a coach sorted out. The coaching situation's a mess. I understand why they would have wanted to rest their Springboks and bring them back in South Africa, but I guess they're all still up north anyway because they played the Wales last week. So I've no idea, lads, to be honest with you. They didn't show Khaleesi or anything in the stands at any point, so I assume he wasn't there.
He was in Cape Town for the Sevens. There's a
Ah,
video of him running about one of the boxes after South Africa Sevens won. So he wasn't there at all.
okay. Well, fair enough then. So yeah, so there's this story of that one. Yeah, it not as bad as expected, I guess, is the highest praise you can give it. There's really nothing new to say about the Sharks, to be honest. Um, all of their problems are so well understood at this point. There's kind of like no analysis you can do because it's just a team
I,
that's underperforming. And I actually watched this with a mate who's only got a passing interest in rugby, and he said the thing which a lot of people have said, which is he looks at the team, the squad that they've got, and goes, shouldn't they be like one of the favourites for this title?
yeah,
And the answer is, yeah, they should, but they're not. And like I said, there's nothing new you can add to that conversation.
no.
It's just the Sharks. So, um, last game of the weekend, Edinburgh versus Toulon. They get the win in the end. Gosh darn it, Toulon cannot win away from home in any competition. I've got questions over the mentality of that squad, but that's for a chat for another day. Edinburgh got to be happy with this.
Very much so. I'd say this is one of those surprising ones that I'm not really keeping up with Toulon. And I look at that team and I'm like, that's a very good team.
There was a
Um,
point in the game. I've watched a lot of rugby this weekend, as I do all weekends, and there was a point where Dave Ribbons open palm smashes Edinburgh player on the floor, gets a yellow card. Um, Baptiste Sirad comes on for Palo Garbisi at 10, and then um, he then takes the ball over his own line from a ruck, and it's a scrum to Edinburgh, which I think they score off. And I think at that point I was like, you know what, lads, I've had enough rugby this weekend. I don't need to see any more.
I look at this Toulon team and I'm like, how did I not realize that most of these transfers have happened? Kyle Sinclair, tight head.
Yeah, it's
Lewis
been there a
Lodum
couple of
at
years now.
6. Yeah, I just haven't realized. It just have not been on my the Premiership of the top 14. Like I need to watch more top 14. It's an incredible league, and I'm sure Hugh, you can vouch for that.
And Toulon
Um,
are always on TV. Every single Toulon game has been broadcasts by Premier Sports this season, so you'll definitely be able
and
to watch them.
and their kit looks like an Ulster kit from a couple of years ago as well with that sponsor. But
Their
yeah,
away kit is white.
and they're like, wow, so it very very much is like French Ulster.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was one of those where I looked at the score. I was a bit surprised by it. I didn't quite catch it because, um, yeah, it was a Sunday and I'm sort of getting ready for work in the week and stuff. But yeah, very good win for Edinburgh. They'd be really happy with that. And going forward, it's as I said, this is something that I keep on. And I'm sorry, Hugh, that I keep on repeating myself about this. Is you would love to see Edinburgh and Toulon after that. Do you know what I mean? You'd
Yeah.
love to see that away game, but it just doesn't happen anymore. But yeah, very good win for Edinburgh.
Um, Toulon as well, flatly refusing to play the conditions. It was raining, shock, and Toulon just kept trying to play their kind of offloading game, and it just did not
That's
work.
that's so stereotypically French rugby team in Northern Hemisphere. I've seen
Yeah.
many, I've seen many French rugby teams try that in Belfast, and it never works.
Yeah. Both not great lineouts. Yeah, the thing with Edinburgh is Edinburgh fans are still if you see what Edinburgh fans are saying on socials, and this is why we need a Scottish presenter. If you look at what Edinburgh fans are saying on socials, like, they're still not happy even during games. They're still like there's discontent there, and because they're so hot and cold, every time they win, it's like they might lose. They might just lose next week though. So you never get the sense with Edinburgh that a win is
Yeah.
leading to something.
Yeah, it's sort of like one of those teams where you think they are capable of way more than they seem to be, and they've got their new stadium, and they've new stadium for a couple of years now, but they're actually building that identity from what they had from Murrayfield, which was like lowish capacity, to now selling out their stadium every week. But you know, next week against Cast are one of the most unpredictable teams in European rugby as well. Like it's I just find it really interesting with Edinburgh.
Mm.
Sort of like
Y-
unmovable force versus unstoppable object next week in terms of Cast v Edinburgh, in terms of
Yeah,
how you can play
exactly.
that.
Yeah, it's two rocks playing against each other. Um, yeah. So we've reached the end of the show. Reached the end of the weekend. There was a lot of rugby, lads. Let's quickly do predictions for next week. Uh, where do I do fixtures and results? I'm navigating
It's
the
the
website. I
the
found it.
website's dreadful for it compared to the URC one.
Yeah, to be fair, the URC website's actually quite good. Oh, I swear Leicester and Leinster play each other every single year, and we have to have this like on the like scoreboard in the corner. It's like Len Derby.
The Leinster the Leo the Leinster Lion versus the Leicester Tigers. I hate the fact that I said that. I see a Leinster win there.
Me too. Moving on. Stormers versus Stade Rochelet. I see a Stormers win.
I definitely see a Stormers
It
win
would
there,
be
yeah.
really cool to see them play Cobras Bay Willems to play Sasha. It would be really cool to see Sasha have like a big statement performance in the Champions Cup.
Oh yeah. I feel like he needs to make statements everywhere he goes now because he is one of the best fly halves in the world.
Yeah.
And he's young as well, so this is the statement he needs to play in that match.
Yeah, and it's I think it's cool having a good Stormers team. I think it's cool the Stormers being good, and I think if they can get people to pay attention to them because they haven't beaten an English team yet. If they beat an English team, thrash an English team, particularly in England, I don't know
Yeah.
who they've got. Um,
Or
then that will be a thing. Is there a way to find out who they've got?
that's the thing about the cup though. It's you don't know if they are definitely playing in England.
They must do. They
They play
must
the
be
Harlequins. Play the
away to
Harlequins.
Harlequins. Ooh,
That's their win.
there'll be a
That's
few
their win.
sappers at that one.
Yeah, that's their win there. Do you know what? Yeah, I can see that happening.
Anyway, we'll predict that at some other point because round three isn't for months yet because of this competition.
Uh, Sharks v Sarries.
Sharks v Sarries.
It
Who
depends on what
knows?
team. Depends on what team Sarries bring.
Yeah,
If
exactly.
Sarries go really weak with it, I can see the Sharks win it, and it'd be a
Yeah,
shock. So I'll say a Sharks win for the URC.
yeah. Okay. UBB versus Scarlets. I'm going to be there.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be cold. I've been warned. Um,
Very cold and nice rugby. Well,
but
for
obviously, needless to say, Scarlets by two. Munster versus Gloucester. How did Gloucester
uh,
even get in the Champions Cup? I thought that it was the law they have to be in the Challenge Cup every year.
they had they had Carreras, didn't they? The really good
Yeah,
Argentinian
and
fly
Thomas
half,
Williams.
and Thomas Williams, and then they lost him to Bath, and now he's coming off the bench for Bath and doing Bath things.
Yeah.
I'd say Munster. It's in Cork as well. It's in Cork, it's not in Thomond. But I'd say Munster by 10.
Okay. Next up, Glasgow versus Toulouse. Ooh.
Ooh,
So look, Toulouse obviously
this one's
favourites, but I reckon Glasgow could make a game of this.
Glasgow could make a game out of it in Scotstoun as well. Cold
Mm.
Saturday night game.
Especially if the weather's terrible.
If the weather's terrible, I could see Glasgow pulling off a famous win here. That's my
Gosh, can you imagine?
bold prediction. That'd be a great game.
Wow. Tune in for that one. Edinburgh over in Cast. Cast because
Oh,
it's in Cast.
Yeah, Castles are one of those Champions Cup teams that I'm like, oh, I wonder how their top 14 goes because Castles are normally always in the Champions Cup and they're so hot and cold.
They're the most mid-table of mid-table teams ever.
Yeah,
Bulls away to Northampton. The
Northampton.
echoes of the time that they sent their C team over. I think they're going to do the same again, to be honest.
Yeah, 100%. I think Northampton definitely win. I think their performance today shows that they'll definitely win.
Yeah. And then that's all of them. Okay. So I'm going to wrap up the show. Thank you, everybody, for watching, enjoying the show. If you have done, hit the subscribe button, share all the audio formats. Thank you to Adam for joining me, just Adam, for this one. Hopefully, get a few more people in front of your faces next week for the show. In the meantime, enjoy your rugby, and I hope everybody's team wins. Cheers.